Libby one year asked me to put together the candidates for the board of directors of the Gilbert and Sullivan Society. And she said, now, as she had done before, I'd done that before, and she said, no, of course, Byron, I want you to make it very, very, very clear that anybody that joins knows that it's a working board, that we expect people to work. This is not given to them as just some sort of reward for being on the board. And she said, and there are people on the board that can be very disagreeable, Byron. I know that, and I know you feel that way, but I trust you as my representative that you'll put all of that aside and you'll make an appropriate decision. I said, of course, Libby, I'll do whatever, I'll do my very best. And I knew who she was talking about. She was talking about Roberta, that I found totally repulsive and disgusting and mean and demanding and just a very irritating person. And almost everybody else felt that way. So I pledged myself to that. And I said, well, internally, I'm going to have to change my opinion of Roberta and make sure that I go just the opposite. I've got to go overboard because I naturally have this. And I'll do that. I've pledged to Libby that I'm going to. So every time I saw Roberta, I say, I'm going to go up and I'm going to ask her how she is. And I'm going to be really interested in how she is. I'm not going to fake it. I'm really going to be interested. And I'm going to do that again every time I see her, and I'm going to welcome her. I'm going to go and do even more than Libby is expecting of me. And I thought, well, I'm doing the charitable thing, the right thing. It'll make things go better and people will get along. And she's the vice president. She brings tons of money in. She's very effective. And I remember the last time I saw her, and she had driven up to this church where we had the rehearsals, and she was outside in her car, and I walk up next to her, and she has a Lincoln Continental because no other car could fit her, and the Continental is tipped like this on her side because she's like 580 pounds or something.
Wow.
She was very heavy.
Yeah, and so I went up and I look in, and she's got 3 McDonald's Big Macs and 3 drinks and 3 big fries, and she's working on number 3. She's finished 2 and she's working on her 3rd lunch. And I'm going like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not even going to act like I even saw that. I'm going to ask her how she is and how things are going. And she was so pleasant and said, oh, Byron, so good to see you. And how have you been? I've missed you or something like this. We had this real pleasant conversation. I said, wow, she didn't, I was able to hide that feeling about, gosh, you're killing yourself with this food. But I did my best at being as nice to her and honoring her and respecting her during that last incident. Well, almost last incident. Then a couple months go by, and she phones me and says, Byron, my brother in New York died recently, died last week, and we are having a
Jewish
remembrance, and I would really appreciate it if you could come over and join us. And all these things, my responsibility, right? Do my duty, and I said, no, I'm going to jump at this and say, oh, I'm so honored. Absolutely, I'll be there. And I meant it, because I said that whatever I said to her, I'm going to really mean it. And so I said, I'm going to go there, get my best clothes on, go there and represent the society.
Okay.
Actually, Libby and her husband went, and then they left earlier. But I sat through the entire, and it was about an hour and a half. And the rabbi came, and he didn't like me. And I think it was because I was the only non-Jew there. I was the only goy there. And I could tell he didn't like me. And then all these Jews came and they brought their food in, and I could tell they all liked her. So I sat there and they sang their hymns, and I found that very interesting, the whole process they go through. This was all new to me. I've never seen that. And I said, so I went out and I said, well, thank you very much. I've got to leave. It was like 10 o'clock. It was totally dark outside. And I walk outside, and I'm getting walking down the walk out of her house, And the door opens and she comes, oh, Byron, Byron, she says, before you leave. And I turned around, she says, I want to tell you how much it's meant to me that you've. I'm sorry, I was going to tell. Yeah, my thing is funny.
Es que Byron has so many stories of
sensitive about this, and she says, "You have no idea how much your presence has meant to me that you've come to my brother's funeral." And Melora, I felt that high. I've never felt more. You know, what would have happened if I'd said something nasty to her or a little bit demeaning? Thank God I didn't do that. Thank God that I maintained this with her, and I had no idea that what I had done meant so much to her. She had tears streaming down her face, and I had no idea that I had that effect on her. I had, you know, that I did that, and I didn't mess up. So Libby is the treasure of all things related to duty and honor
Byron, tell him the story about the litter.
So Calvin comes down, and I said, Calvin, you should see this Gilbert and Sullivan Society. This thing, it's so interesting to me. We had experiences with the Pacific Musical Society in San Francisco. There are a lot of Jews there also, and we didn't know the politics that were going on, but you got the same sort of feeling at the Gilbert and Sullivan Society in Austin. So I said, Cal, come on down. You'd enjoy seeing this. And so he comes down, and it was Pirates of Penzance, wasn't it? And Libby comes out, who had just, I think this may have been her like second year of being the president, and she gives the curtain speech. And she says, no, we'd like everybody to turn off their cell phone. And she gives this very short talk, but we sort of like, don't take off your hat and be respectful, and it's sort of like we expect everybody to be on their best behavior kind of thing. That kind of speech. But she didn't say it, but it just came through. She had like this aura. And then I saw other people in that same year that we did the same 2-week period of other people giving the curtain speech. And when she gave the curtain speech, afterwards, the floor was nearly clean of any trash, of gum wrappers or candy wrappers or anything like that, or old programs torn up and laid on the floor. It was almost clean. And someone else would come in and say, oh, hello everybody, welcome everybody to the Gilbert and Sullivan, and we're going to see a show today, it's going to be great. And after that, there'd be all kinds of trash on the floor.
I mean, a factor of 10, an order of magnitude, and just overwhelming difference.
And it was just absolutely clear, like Calvin says, an order of
magnitude.
Look
at this, yeah.
And what was it that this woman had that these others...
That inspired people to be civilized.
To be civilized, yeah. And then Calvin's there, and she comes out and explains a little bit about Pirates of Penzance. And then she said, welcome to the opening scene.
Just so wonderfully.
And walks off the stage. And Calvin says, Byron, said, we've just seen Act 1. If Act 2 is nearly as good, you got a winner. It showed because he recognized that.
Yeah. We both understood Libby right away. She was just such a treasure.
She was a lady.
weiche Winde, kein Hofer kommt in meinen Sinn, als dass ich hier ein